This episode of Storycomic Presents is sponsored by JanicePointPress.com. Watch out for wormholes. Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 319. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're honored to have with us the nationally acclaimed and award-winning author of Indigo Hours, Healing Haiku, Nancy Stone. And then and you've written some other books as well, other than this one as well. You've written the 251 Vermont Vistas, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
My husband and I, he came home from a mission trip after hurricane work, and he said, I want to go on all the back roads of Vermont, and you can do art. And I thought, what would I do? But I thought, I'm a book artist, so I made some postcards, hand cut, and did the artwork on the front and made a little recollection of each of Vermont's 251 towns on the back. And the University of Vermont Special Collections bought the originals from me. And the book went into 3 publications, 3 editions, and I've only got a few left.
For those that might be listening or watching this that might be unfamiliar to Vermont and the 251 Club, do you want to talk briefly about what the 251 Club is?
It is so wonderful. People come from out of state just because it's such a great thing. There are only 251 towns and 4 little tiny places that you can add to your list if you want. And then Essex and Essex Junction separated, so that added confusion. People can do whatever they want. They can take 50 years. They can see the state on a motorcycle, as one man did, within a few days, which is ridiculous. Ken and I decided that we would go, and he would drive, and I had my iPad because he didn't have patience for me to do watercolors in each town. I was going to kiss him each town and buy cheese in each town, but that just got old really fast. So, but we went with intention. And then I got into my 14th or 15th postcard, and I went, what have I done? Because I would look at several images on my iPad and then sketch it in pencil, then ink, then watercolor, and then add colored pencil, and then edited it several times until it was good on the back. Some people can do visiting breweries. Some people visit creamy stands. Some people visit libraries, but there's some towns I could only paint Black-Eyed Susan because there were no people there or buildings.
So in order to be a part of the 250, you have to take a picture of, what is it, the post office, or what? How is it that you actually know?
There are no rules.
Okay.
You don't even have to join. I think it's, $15, $20 a year, which provides a big luncheon, and you meet other people who've done it. And you set your own goals. I mean, there are no rules at all. You don't have to have anything stamped. You can't meet people because some towns have no people.
What were some of the commonalities that you said in the beginning? I need to make sure I capture quintessential image of each town, or how did you kind of decide what you were going to pick?
No, that would be AAA.
Okay.
I realized maybe after a month or two, when I took a photograph of a large maple tree on the main road with buckets on it, that anyone from town would know I'd been there. So I just had to show anybody who lived in a town that I'd been there. Sometimes it was a piece of architecture. Sometimes it was llamas. Whatever caught my interest.
Right.
Sometimes we had to back around and go back through the town because it was so small and so short. I hadn't seen anything that captured my interest. Oh, and then there was one time Ken said, did you see that? And I went, no. So he turned around, and up in the Northeast Kingdom, maybe you still know it if you're from there, there was this piano out in a big field, far away, and then the mountains in the background. So I zoomed in my camera and took a picture of it and painted that.
So did you visit Mosquitoville then as well? Does that count?
I remember I don't know which town of many there was. We had to eat inside the car one time and not open the windows.
It was, yeah, because it's Reigate. Part of Reigate, there's a what do you call it? Not a hamlet. What's the word? Like the small gore. A gore. Is
Gore.
that one?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would do some towns have villages within them, and I'd have done photographs and taken notes, and then realized it was within a town, so it wouldn't be a valid postcard.
Okay.
I learned a lot about Vermont. It was great.
Right.
So
Right.
beautiful. What a wonderful state.
The thing about Vermont is every season is beautiful in its own way. Is there certain times of the year where people say it's a better time to visit certain towns
We
than other
don't
times?
talk about that. I
Yeah.
knew I wanted to show different weather in different seasons. So there were times when Ken, who was a snowboarder, was going because we'd going up this slick, frozen, rutted road, get to the top and find out the road was closed, and then he'd be going all the way down. So it was quite the experience. We bought a Vermont road atlas, so that our marriage could survive. Because
About the 251, the Vermont 251 Vermont Visitors, was there any specific postcard that you have more fond memories of compared to some other ones?
this is a funny one. South Burlington.
Really?
Yeah, I asked friends who live in South Burlington, what should I do for South Burlington? And nobody knew. They didn't do the mall, we didn't do the airport. And then I was listening to the radio and somebody said apple pie. I went, Al's French fries.
Okay.
So I made a special trip and took a photograph when it was all in bloom with the flowers and did Al's French fries. That was a
No,
fun memory.
so you said that this book there was limited supply. So those that are watching or listening to this, are there's a chance they might not be able to get this book then?
Well, I'm going to be working, selling the 2 books at the Williston School's craft show next weekend. And I think I will have like 20 books left of the 251 Club.
Wow. Okay. All right.
People
And
love it.
where
It's a great gift.
right. And where did you get it? How did you get it published?
I paid for it with a publisher that's now out of business.
Oh,
And it was in
wow.
color and it was very expensive. And galleries
Right.
said, oh, this is just what we want. And we take 50 or 60%. I would have gotten no profit at that point because
Right.
they cost a lot to print. So
Right.
my next
Right.
book, Indigo Hours, is black and white on purpose.
This is something that you wrote 350 haikus.
Not in the
Um,
book. I had
Not
to
in the
edit it.
book. You wrote.
Right.
Okay. All right. So talk to us a bit about this. Talk to us about Indigo Hours then.
Well, as we were getting close to 230 towns, I noticed some things were happening with Ken that
Mm.
made me wonder. So in my mind, I thought, we have got to finish this project because something's going on. So we finished it, and then that same summer, he was tested for his memory,
Mm.
and it was mild cognitive impairment, likely Alzheimer's.
Right.
So after a while, he couldn't drive. So it was a wonderful thing we did.
Right.
And he likes to look at the book with me.
Right.
I couldn't sleep. Before the diagnosis and after the diagnosis, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be in turmoil and anxiety. I started jotting down notes, which were helpful for our doctor, including the reasons why he shouldn't be driving anymore. And then I started reading Mary Oliver poetry, and I bought a big book. And she just brings me peace. I still read it when I wake up. And then I started writing. Well, I'd sit in bed and go, what is going on?
Mm.
And I'd find a word that made sense to me. And then I started using Post-its and I started writing haiku poetry. So this is my little handmade book. And every one of these Post-its probably took 8 to 20 versions until I got the right number of syllables in the right words that spoke to what I was trying to say. So I have an example of haiku which explains that. So it's usually 3 lines. The first line is 5 syllables, the second one is 7, and then the third one is 5, excuse me. So I'm going to count it out. Seeking a playmate, my muse wakes me at midnight. We frolic for hours. And then I can usually get to sleep unless my muse decides to keep going.
Right.
But without her, I wouldn't have had this book, and it was really, really healing to me.
Watch out for wormholes, because a good book is a wormhole, whether it's paper or pixels. Explore our artist books and chapbooks, including the winning 2022 Chautauqua Janus Prize Lecture at januspointpress.com. And sign up for news of our upcoming sci-fi, sensual, and literary collection, Event Horizon. This short story collection on cosmic decisions and their impact is written by award-winning author Stephanie Nina Pizzarillos and features comics, prose, photography, and original canvas work by an array of exciting artists. Visit januspointpress.com. And so somebody who's an artist, though, going through some of this stuff and utilizing this also as a form of therapy, what made you gravitate towards the written word instead of a visual medium?
It was a different world. And I think I could be more specific choosing 17 syllables instead of reworking. And my art usually is happier than that. So here's a little book. I hope you can see it well enough. It's called Blue Haiku.
Okay.
And it has string, and it shows a little silhouette figure dancing. It says, dancing in the breeze, he and the kite are one, as both drift off beyond reach.
Oh, wow.
Both drift beyond reach. And it has a little hole here that he went into. And that really happened. I really had that feeling when we were out flying a kite. So then I had, at one point, 200 haiku, and I wanted to enter the art show. I co-founded the Book Arts Guild of Vermont, and they were having a show, and I thought, well, I just have my poems. So I thought, well, maybe I'll make my poems into a book. So this is called Sea Change Haiku.
Wow.
And it stands up like an accordion. So I can explain a little bit how I did that, if you'd like me to.
Absolutely.
Okay. I discovered a product right around that time. Being an art teacher, I taught pre-K to college over my lifetime. But I love scratchboard. I mean, in 3rd and 4th grade, you're scratching through black crayon to get the colored crayon underneath. And then you get to middle school and you have white clay coated paper with ink on it. You scratch through that. But I found this product that is stiff plastic with ink on it. When you scratch through it, you can see through it. So you can place color under it, like that. So by doing that, I was able to do the cover of my book by placing the hourglass over a watercolor. And I used indigo pigment because indigo hours are the middle of the darkest hours of the night when things seem to go wrong. I sprinkled salt into it to create the stars, but it also, someone pointed out, looked like the brain synapses.
Wow.
Who knew?
Right.
I realized I was constantly doing the same question marks. So in this case, I made them varied because the questions were varied.
Okay.
And after I wrote some haiku, my mind would settle down and there would be peace at the bottom.
Wow.
So it's filled with artwork and poetry. And so I was able to put the plastic over some poetry, and it became one piece, as you saw in that big book
Right.
that I made for the art show. So this is not liking loose ends. I now feel normal being all tied up in knots. And people are finding these helpful, even if they haven't dealt with caregiving or Alzheimer's, because we all have, as Mary Oliver said, we all wear a shadow, and it's
Right.
not always attached to our feet. This
Right.
is another one. It's hard trying to both hold it together and watch it fall apart. This one took me 2 weeks, because no matter what stage we are at in the dementia trip, things seem calm on the surface, but underneath, you know, things are going on, and then it's a fatal disease.
Right.
So I wrote placid days, calm seas, clandestine tidal movement, ruthless undertow. Usually the ocean's quiet at the bottom and the rough seas are at the top, but for what we're living through, it has that and this part of it. So it was a way to express with art and words what I was going through and other people go through.
Do you find that some of the feedback you've gotten is that some of these haikus speak to other levels of caregiving or other issues of stress and
Yes.
that part too? Yeah.
Yes. I was sharing some poems simply because they were pouring out of me. People who have cared for cancer. One of them is about a train, and a tragedy came in that person, my friend's life with the train. Could I read that one to you?
Sure.
This one also really took a long time. Sometimes 3 lines are not enough. Bypassing signals, the whistle wails plaintively. Please stop this train now. But time hurtles forth, over trestles of loss, through tunnels in the brain. Flickering windows reflect precious glimpses of shared memory. Life's receding ties, diminishing with a whoosh. Soft echoes remain. So it's like...
Right. Mm.
That one helped me figure out what's going on, too. I have a funny one to follow that. Grandma told me that girls aren't archaeologists. Not true nowadays, wrote this last spring. I'm excavating cupboards for lost spoons, pans, and dirty dishes. An earnest helper, he forgets where things belong. I search and unearth.
Talk to us, Nancy, about when it came to actually getting the book together. What made you decide to get this published?
I didn't. My friends did.
Okay.
I'm finding the Alzheimer's support group is really helpful. We're meeting now twice a month. There are tears, and there's sharing, and there's a lot of laughter, and there's mourning. And it's just wonderful. Someone there said, you must publish these. Other caregivers need them. Neighbors have told me, you must publish these. I said, no, they were for me. But they said, you've really got to do this. Other caregivers need this. So I was selling the 251 book at the Vermont Business Magazine event, and saw on the list of other participants that there would be a publisher there. So I put together a little book of my poems within art and without art, even though their website, Rootstock Publishing, said no images to be associated with the poetry. I thought, this isn't going to work. So I went over to her booth and I said, this is what I've done. She went, oh, these are intentional. Send them to me. So Samantha Colber liked it. She's a poet herself. I still have, what is that word? Imposter syndrome, because I'm an artist. I don't think I'm a poet, but she liked it. So I spent many hours when I had caregiving for my husband at the library trying to figure out how to combine some poems or combine the art with the poem, etc. And it just came out this month. So,
And so talk about just the actual process of it, because you said you wrote 350, but they're not 350 published. How did you
uh,
edit out? How did you edit the book then?
I'm at a big table in my studio. I had them all written down on different pieces of paper, different sizes, move them around, and I've divided the book into 5 years. It's not the most recent 5 years, it was early on 5 years. I thought, all right, these, because this gave the dates. So
Hmm.
I had to figure out what was year one. And you can see the process of terrible fear, awful, and then gradually coming to terms with it. Like this. This is year 4. Here, but not really. It comes and goes, highs and lows, ambiguous grief. So
Hmm.
just kind of sensing what was going on and accepting what was. You can't fight it.
Hmm.
And one of my poems is you choose joy instead of dismal moroseness. So I just shifted them around and just thought, all right, this would work. I don't need that. I said that earlier, and it was editing for myself.
Did Samantha or anyone at Rootstock help you with the editing piece as well?
I was so surprised she didn't.
Wow.
All the editing was if there was a semicolon where it shouldn't be. I mean, I'm not a poet, and she is, but she
Right.
accepted me. And
Right.
the design for the cover was my idea.
Yeah.
They wanted to have a blue strip here, and I went, no, this is haiku, simplicity. I don't want that blue strip. So I think being a square, which she suggested, and having it just, straight on what it is more like haiku.
Right.
So good questions. I like that. I did have one that after I had submitted everything to her, probably March or April, my muse was still coming to me. So I encourage caregivers to keep part of themselves because things will end and you need to be who you are and not totally lose yourself in caregiving. So I was down here last spring in my studio, happy. And he was above me in the kitchen doing his jigsaw puzzle, happy, for hours, not moving. And then one night I saw he had terrible edema in his legs, and it frightened me to bits. I called the doctor and everything. So I wrote this poem, sent it to Samantha just as a way of saying, hey, I'm still producing with my muse. And she said, we're going to do this epilogue. I'll read it from the book. Compression. Tight compression socks, frustrating and aggravating to pull on and off. We shout, I slam door. He whispers, I'm sorry for whatever I did. Within just minutes, he forgot what happened. It took me more time. He gently teaches how to live in the moment. I'm slowly learning.
Hmm. They're all. It seems like they're all of the poetry is powerful. What do you hope the readers get out of your book?
Well, I have a friend who's dealing with the same thing I am. She was online in a class, and her friend from the class in Colorado found my website, had bought the book, and emailed me that his wife had died 2 years ago, and he found it very comforting.
Hmm.
So people are telling me they find solace in it, as I do. So I just think that the haiku has a ministry to other people.
Right.
It's great. Didn't expect
Yeah.
that.
And so you mentioned, Nancy, the book is available as of this recording. It is available to purchase, correct?
Yes. If people can meet me, they can buy it without paying shipping costs. They can get it from Rootstock Publishing, which has a website. It comes in paperback and hardcover at Phoenix Books. The publisher and I only do the softcover. And then Amazon does ebook also.
Once you started learning and utilizing that style of art, was that a given? Like all of the illustrations in the book were going to be that same similar style of
Oh
art?
yeah, but I couldn't do all the poems. So at the point of the art show, I did, I think, 18, and that was enough. It was all the editing, and then you have to go through the Library of Congress, and you have to get the copyright, and there's just so much to do.
Right. Yeah.
But I just took it one step at a time, just like Alzheimer's. You just take it one day at a time.
Right.
Yes.
And you also have that Nancy Stone website as well.
Yep, nancystone.weebly.com.
Okay.
Turned 80 this summer and thought, what am I going to do with some of the art that's left over I haven't sold? And at the same time, I realized the book was coming out. So I decided to treat my website as a retrospective of my life, because I've done a lot of different kinds of art.
So that's great. So if anybody's interested, they can go to, as you mentioned, nancystone.weebly.com, and you actually have a list of all your paintings that people can peruse and look at purchasing
Right.
as well.
Some are for sale, and some are just amazing that I was so involved that I just kept going no matter how much work was involved. So
Right.
they're fun. I had a 300 colored pencil drawings in an animated movie I filmed one frame at a time that was in the UVM Fleming Art Museum. I have one
Right.
last poem that I love.
Yes, let's hear it.
It still resonates for me, and it can go for anybody. Despite all the times of exasperation, fear, exhaustion, and stress, I recognize that this day could be the best day of our yesterdays. And I still hold that true, because things will go downhill eventually more than they are now.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Because I can't tell when I talk, so yeah, so I have to ask.
You
so,
sound dandy. Yep.
okay, wow, all right, but not fine and dandy, just dandy then.
I think I used fine earlier. You are dandy and fine.
Well, you sound dandy and fine too, Nancy.
You have to be if you're an art teacher.
That's right.